welcome to the Security Cocktail Hour. I'm Joe Patty.
Um, I'm Adam Roth.
Yes, you're Adam Roth. Remember, I
Well, it
know
was
it's a
Super
little.
Bowl yesterday. It was the Super Bowl yesterday.
Yeah, I know it's a little early. Well, we've had to make some changes, but before we get into that, let's introduce our esteemed guest. Today we have May Brooks-Kempler. May, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you guys doing?
Okay, well we're a little tired actually. Come to think of it.
Yeah, Super Bowl. Yeah,
Yeah,
makes
I
sense.
mean, we have to tell everyone. We were originally going to record this the afternoon before the Super Bowl, and we were like, yes, we'll pregame, we'll get fired up, we'll have some cocktails. Instead, we had some technical issues, and we're actually doing it the morning after. So for some of us, this is the hangover edition, and we're doing coffee. But May is in the true spirit of the show. Yes, well
Yes,
done.
yes. Well, it
What do you got
is
there, Adam?
5 o'clock somewhere. It's actually 6:30 somewhere. What have I got? I got a martini with a twist. I usually go for a scotch, but I said 6:30. It's a bit early for a scotch for me, so let's do a martini. So cheers, guys.
Cool. Well, cheers. Yes,
Yeah.
good for
Cheers.
you.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty good. I did myself
Now,
proud.
you are later than us. We're on the U.S. East Coast, and you're in Dubai, right?
Yes. So here
And
it's already evening.
it's already.
I'm in the
evening, but
future.
That's true. You're in the future, but I got to say, I don't associate Dubai with a lot of drinking. But from what you've said, that's actually not correct.
No, that's a total misconception.
Is that
I mean,
right?
yes, I've never drank so much since I moved to this Muslim country. Honestly, I never had so many drinks until I moved here.
If she's in the future, I'm in the past.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I've sometimes said you've been living in the past, but that's that's nothing to do with the time zone.
Oh, I got
Oh,
confused.
that's
Sorry.
You walked right into that one, man. Come on, you know.
Well, I'm still working on my time machine, so we'll talk about that.
All
Will
right.
it be a DeLorean?
I know it's I have a 2000 Toyota Corolla.
No, it has to be a DeLorean.
Yeah, DeLorean's cool. Gotta go in
A
style.
DeLorean is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, May, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do? You are also a fellow podcaster of more experience than us, as a matter of fact, but you do quite a bit more than that.
Yeah, well, I've been in cybersecurity for about 20 years, a little over 20 years, so I'm getting older. Some would say better, but I'm not sure. Been in cybersecurity, been doing it for a long time, started as a penetration tester, absolutely hated it. Moved to consulting, architecture, GRC. At some point, I was a CISO for quite a few years. Then I swore I would never be a CISO again. Then I took another position as a CISO. And then I swore I will never do a CISO role again. So let's see how long this will
Okay.
last again. Member of the IC2 board of directors, IC2 authorized instructor for a very long time. Been teaching CISSP, HSIP, co-author, doing else am I doing? Oh, the podcast. So I've been podcasting since 2020. Originally, I'm from Israel, so originally I did it in Hebrew. And around lockdown, I was having nice conversations with friends of mine. We were very lonely and very bored, so we started doing like these Zoom calls. And at some point, I said, "Wait a minute, why don't we just broadcast them in my Facebook community?" So that was the Think Safe Cyber podcast, and we ran. Apparently today we finished moving it from one platform to another. So apparently it was 105 episodes.
Oh,
It was
wow.
yes,
Nice.
That's a lot.
yes. So that was every Thursday night. So that's about 2 years of content, and I'm still involved with other podcasts as well. And I have Cybermania, where I already had him as a guest, and
That's
Adam,
good.
you're going to be up next for sure.
Yes,
Yes.
I
So
know.
again,
Not that I
I'm
have a
having
choice,
fun.
but it's
No,
okay. I'll do it.
no, you don't have a choice.
Hey, Joe, you know what we should do? No, I want to do a podcast in another language that we don't know and see how it works out.
Oh, that would be good.
That
That
might
would
be a
be
little
good.
challenging. You know what we could do? We could do it in do it in English and then do it with the AI. Did you see that thing? I think it was the president of Argentina. They like translated a speech that he gave, but with AI made it in his voice. It
Oh,
was
that's cool.
pretty.
With
It was
probably
pretty
with
intense.
what's it called? With 11 Labs, probably.
Whatever
Oh, and
they used,
hygiene.
I
I
don't
don't know.
know, but it was.
Yeah, it's super cool. Well,
Yeah,
I
it was
actually
pretty cool.
participated in. I was a guest in the Greek chapter of IC2 about a few months ago. Now, I actually logged in like 15 minutes before my presentation, so I was listening in, and it was like Greek to me. Like every once in a while, they said AI,
Amazing.
firewall, DLP. So I did get the gist of things, like what they were talking about, but that was about it. So yeah, so it could be nice doing a podcast in a language we don't understand.
Fantastic.
Well, truthfully, that happens to me when people say things in English. I get lost too. So, I've never
Well,
been to an ISC meeting, and I've been, I think, an ISC certified individual as as a ISSAP and a CISSP for I think 20 years. I'm a 5-digit ISC person. I should probably go to a meeting. I hear the New Jersey chapter is amazing.
It
I
is.
should probably go.
You should definitely go, and you should definitely have Ken as a guest in the podcast. He's a great guest. I
yeah,
had him on.
I went to one of those meetings. I think it was this past summer or something, and it's the New Jersey chapter. I'm in New Jersey, but actually, when it comes to professionally, I'm mainly New York based. And so I went to the New Jersey thing. It was like it just happened to be a couple minutes from my house. It was really easy, and I was like, I'm looking around. I'm like, oh my god, I had no idea there were this many security people in New Jersey. It's quite eye opening. I understand Ken has done quite an impressive job in building up that chapter to something huge.
He has, and he's reached out to many chapters around the world, and he already led 2 global ISC2 chapter events. The first one was
Nice.
2022. The second one was just now in December, and it was absolutely amazing because we had chapters from different time zones and different speakers, people from Ghana and people from Sri Lanka and people from Israel and people from the US. So it was absolutely amazing to see so many different people and hear so many different perspectives. That I absolutely love that. Those conversations. I think you can learn a lot from that.
You mean there are people in security besides Israelis and Americans?
Yeah,
That's good to
there
hear.
are. There are, though we tend to spread around.
What are you talking about, Joe? There's Russians and Chinese and Syrians and all from those proxy groups.
Oh, that's
Yeah, but
harsh.
yeah,
Well,
we have people from all over.
well, Adam, I'm sure we can find a group for you because, being in Staten Island, you can't be with the cool people in the Jersey chapter. Sorry,
What are
man.
you talking
Don't know
about?
about that.
My cell sites are New Jersey. I live in New
Your
Jersey,
cell
basically.
sites in New Jersey.
Well, I think we'll just have to get you to start another chapter,
There you go.
said the
This
board member.
the Staten Island
Shameless.
chapter.
Shameless.
I
I
don't
think
want
you've
to
been.
run anything.
I think you've been challenged, Adam. There you go.
I pride myself on doing the least amount of work possible. Joe, I worked for you 6 years. How do you not know that?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. No, Adam does what's got to be done. That's what we do.
And podcasting.
That's right, and podcasting. So, May, it's interesting you said something that you were a CISO once, swore you'd never do it again, and then you did it again. We've had a number of conversations, including one with Chris Roberts in particular, talk about the stresses of the CISO job and how, especially here with the new SEC stuff, that it seems to be increasingly becoming a job for a complete mad woman. I mean, but
I think it
I
always
don't know.
was.
I guess you had enough at one point then, twice.
Well, more than twice, but 2 major companies. Yeah, I think that one of the things that I notice whenever I interview CISOs is how do you relax after a hard day? I drink. How do you celebrate your success? I drink. So I think cybersecurity, it will make you drink. That's the new motto.
No, that is very true.
Every time we
I
say CISO, we have to drink.
There we
Oh,
go.
okay.
Well, I've said for a long time that I only know, 2 people in security who don't drink, and it's for religious purposes. And actually, I was corrected by someone I know last week in a bar. Of course, it ends up it's 3. So my
Oh,
apologies to the
Do you
okay.
know,
non-drinking community.
May, I went to this event. I know you know Savan, right? So from Onyxa. And
Yes,
I
of
went to
course.
an event
Of
and I
course, we
met a
have.
gentleman there, and he runs a whole entire CISO like group or organization. And he was like trying to get me to join. And great guy, But when I started speaking to him and having conversations, I mean, like the membership was like, I think in the thousands when you really think about it. And they go off site. I can't afford to be a CISO.
Yeah. Well, I think that today being a CISO, I mean, it's a super challenging job, and it really depends on your leadership and how they perceive the CISO role. Because in some companies, especially in the SMB, SME side, some are still looking at the CISO as the the all-in-one solution. That person will configure the firewall and build the policy
Oh my
and run
God,
the
yeah.
awareness training and talk to the board. Well, yeah, yeah, but he's not going. That person is not going to do a very good job in all the different cybersecurity domains. That's absolutely impossible.
I think if you're a CISO today, you need to carry your own independent liability insurance because you don't know
Well,
what's going to happen to you.
well, some do. And Joe, you just mentioned the SEC, and we also talked about it in my podcast. And the what's his name, SolarWinds. So we know that CISOs are now liable to whatever they say, even when it's just in gist. So they have to be. I don't know. I think that we have to look at the CISO role a little bit differently. And if CISOs want to be perceived differently, we need to talk the business side. We should stop talking about technology, start talking about the business.
That's something that's been said for a long time. But I think it's really challenging because a lot of CISOs essentially come out of IT, and now some are coming from the risk side too. But I'm trying to think of how many have come from the business side. And it seems like the business still, even if they say we're so committed to security, we want all this, whatever. It's like you need to talk to one of the great cliches that drives me nuts is the CISO needs to talk to the board. For what I understand, the CISO gets maybe 5 minutes with the board a couple times a year. And that's I don't know if that's a deep relationship. Put it that way.
Yeah,
It's, yeah, it's interesting. I'm just going to say, if you're from the risk side and you're from the compliance side and you work for a financial, there's a good chance, I'm not a large chance, but a good chance you're probably an attorney. So it's funny, right? Do you need to be an attorney to be a CISO? I'm not saying you do, but the point I'm making is a lot of compliance people are attorneys. So you have
yeah,
to find that niche. Are you a business person? Do you have the MBA? Or did you just go to high school? And there's nothing wrong with that. And you really know the business. So I don't think we typecast them anymore. It's really what your capabilities are.
yeah. I
Yeah.
tend to agree with that. But I think that a lot of CISOs today, or a lot of cybersecurity professionals today, not only CISOs, can and probably should go for an MBA because again, many people in cybersecurity grew up in the tech side. So we don't look at things from the business point of view. And for many years, I thought that my MBA was a complete waste of time. I did pretty early on in my career. And only in later stages, I came to realize how much it changed my perspective, how many tools it gave me that I only used like 10, 15 years after graduating, but it was absolutely wonderful having those tools. And even in the board of directors for IC, people think that being in the board of a cybersecurity organization means that we're talking cybersecurity. Rarely. Sometimes we do because, yes, when we have the conversation with the CISO, obviously it's a bit different than a regular CISO reporting to a regular board. We do all come from the cybersecurity industry. But at the end of the day, our responsibilities are as board members and running the organization and making sure that we do our due diligence to the best of our abilities from a business point of view, not from a cybersecurity point of view.
Of course, a
Yeah.
fiduciary responsibility.
Mm.
You have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that everything's covered, whether or not you had that vision for the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. What's the organization going to look like from a technology standpoint? Even though technology is not the main point, you're saying, what is our organization going to need? And if you're more on the vendor side, what is the industry going to need in the next 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years? So, not so if you're a CISO on more on delivery side, not only do you have to worry about your organization, you have to be clairvoyant. You have to know what's going to happen in the industry and predict that pretty damn well.
Absolutely. I think that's, by the way, one of the opportunities I recognize for CISOs today, especially CISOs working for technological companies, for obviously for cybersecurity vendors or cybersecurity companies in general, because in that way, if they offer the right advice to the board of directors, they can actually help the company build the cybersecurity strategy and make cybersecurity a business driver, not just a business enabler, but actually a business driver, driving the business, giving actual monetary value to the company. And that's a whole different conversation and a whole different positioning for the CISO.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot because
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
this will
Oh
be
no,
fun.
it wasn't me.
But no, we've heard for years it's a bit of a cliche. We need to make, security a business enabler. And frankly, when 90% of the people say that, they really mean don't make it a disabler. I don't care what they say.
Or don't make it a
That's
cost
ultimate.
center.
Yeah, that's ultimately what they mean. But taking that next step to say, okay, we want security to be, you know, really driving the business. I mean, what's is there a magic formula? I mean, how do you really do that? And I'll tell you why I bring it up, because I was a little depressed in the past few days about something. Not that depressed, but I read about, I think it was the Procter and Gamble hack when they got hit with ransomware. They make the soap and home products and everything, and they said, wow, their cleanup costs were ridiculous. I think it was like $59 million. It ends up that was like 0.6% of their revenue for the year. And I saw that and said, okay, I can understand why the board isn't that worried about security, even after a ransom attack. So, I mean, how do you spin that? What do you think of spinning that around? And I know you,
I don't think that
you know what I
every
mean?
CISO in every organization can use cybersecurity to drive the business. That's why I said in technological companies, in cybersecurity vendors or service providers, that will be sort of the niche where cybersecurity can actually drive and give actual monetary value to the business. I think that we have to change the conversation in every industry, not just talking about, oh, it's going to cost us so much money, or everyone is going to leave us, all the customers are going to leave us. No, to be honest, if I'm buying, I don't know, my shampoo from Procter and Gamble, I'm not going to stop buying my shampoo from Procter and Gamble because they were hit by ransomware. With all due respect to cybersecurity, and I am a cybersecurity professional, but at the end of the day, I don't care. They make my shampoo. I mean, I really don't care what their cybersecurity strategy is. But when we're talking about cybersecurity products, absolutely. When we're talking about big data companies, today I had a conversation with someone online about Truecaller and Me. And he said, but Me is collecting data and aggregating data, and they can show you worked for this company based on you probably worked in this company based on your friends and whatever. And we had a very long conversation on that, whether or not it's a problem or not. Because at the end of the day, yeah, you can find that data on my LinkedIn page. And you can also deduce that data from looking on at my profile, looking who my friends are. So do we really want to hide that? Are we really that concerned with privacy? And if we are, what would we do about it?
But would you go to 23andMe knowing that they weren't able to create an infrastructure to protect your data? I want to know certain things about my life, about ancestry, but I'm
Mm,
mortified. I don't want to do that. And however, for a guy that was also in the healthcare system, who's been an EMT, I wouldn't necessarily go to a hospital that kept on getting compromised with PHI. So it depends on the product. Procter Gamble might be okay for your shampoo, but what if it's medication? What if
yeah,
your data is getting out?
Mhm.
but if you need to go to the ER right now, would actually go to a hospital further away because the one closest to your house was hacked last year and all the
No,
data
but I
was leaked?
would no, but and I might not even get that choice. If I'm having an MI, a myocardial infarction, and I'm
Yeah.
in the closest hospital, the EMTs or paramedics are going to take me there. However, if I have elective surgery and I know one hospital was compromised constantly and I have to worry about my data getting out, I might consider that. I get what you're
But
saying, though.
how many people would do that? How many people would actually choose their curb provider based on whether or not they've been hacked?
I was going to say you don't. I mean, we've experienced that. We talked about that with Jim Hoffman. It's like, yeah, when the ambulance comes, if they, you're not worried about their, they're HIPAA compliant, so their privacy. I mean, I actually had the same thing with my wife. We got a standard, disclosure, notification, whatever, that one of our, vendors is actually a third party thing, lost all of our data. They basically sent the standard letter that says, "We're sorry, we care about your data," right? And
We're
it's
getting this
like,
letters once a week.
what are you going
Well,
to do because of that? You're going to change your oncologist? I mean, that's not very realistic. And it's a really good question. And how do we kind of propel security forward in that kind of environment?
There was a place I used to go for film, like for like MRIs and CAT scans. And this is years ago, and I told them stop leaving. Back then it was stop leaving the clipboards on the counter with my PHI. Stop doing it. And let me tell you, I stopped going there because of that, because I didn't want people getting my data. And it really takes one person just to start gathering that data to do something. Look, I realize that 50 people probably have my data I don't know about. I've been probably compromised. If I go to what's it called? Am I pwned? I mean, the
I bet you're
list is
fine. Yeah.
17 pages long. I mean, like, I have to, when I print it out, my printer runs out of paper. But the point I'm making is, I guess what I don't know is what is good, right? But I try to protect my data when I can. But does every one of us turn on multi-factor authentication? And that only prevents somebody from the outside, not somebody compromising the back end. So I get it. It really depends on how you want to slice it.
And the problem is, do people care and how much they care? Like, we're not the average person. Yes, I wouldn't choose a vendor that I know jeopardized my PHI a few times. But to be honest, the majority of people don't even think about that. And we talked about it before we started this recording. I don't consider my ID number in Israel to be confidential anymore. It's been leaked too many times. Chances of identity theft for me as an Israeli are so high that I don't consider my ID to be anything. It's not confidential. It's not, if, as far as I'm concerned, that's public data. I don't care anymore. Now, I don't care anymore, and I'm saying it with a lot of pain from, like, my professional ego is sore because of that. But it's been leaked so many times, I can't treat it as confidential data. And to be honest, I don't think there's anything to be done. What are they going to do? Change the entire population's ID number and ID, like everything? You can't really
No,
do that.
Yeah. Well, then here's the question. Then sometimes I've said I feel that sense of despair too. You're like, yes, your data's been stolen so many times. There's so many people you've given it to, and it's guaranteed to be out there. Okay, so it's out there, and if someone wants it, they can buy it, whatever. So where does that leave us then? Well,
I think mostly with education and awareness, that people will know what it means that their data is compromised, that they'll realize what they can still expect as privacy, like what's a reasonable privacy expectation in 2024, which was very different than 2018 and will probably also be very different in 2028. It's going to be very different, but I think that the majority, I just had that conversation last week with a colleague that has been doing device security for many years. And it was following a conversation I've seen in my Facebook community in Think Safe Cyber, that people said, well, I'm opting to go from Android to iOS because then I'll be completely safe online. I'm like,
ah, sorry.
dude, no, that's not the way it works. First, when iOS was less popular on a global scale, there weren't any malwares or very few malwares because it wasn't popular enough for the hackers to actually develop malware for iOS. And moreover than that, even let's say it's the best operating system in the world and it's totally secured and there are no malwares in the App Store and everything. At the end of the day, if someone clicks a link and it's a phishing campaign and they give someone else the password, Apple is not going to save you. Android is not going to save you. At the end of the day, it's only human awareness and being aware of social
Intervention.
engineering. And yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, the problem is not technology; it's people.
But when you're carrying your phone, forget about malware, forget about someone hacking it. You're carrying a listening device, and I know that. And I have to say, and I say, my God, these conversations sometimes I have that are personal, they're already recorded somewhere because they claim that they use it. They do record. And we had that conversation with Jen. Remember, Joe?
Yeah.
She
Oh
was
yeah.
a privacy attorney, and she's like, she wrote that book about that vendor, and these devices are constantly listening to you and sampling you and recording you for quality control and evaluation. So whether it's Apple or um, whether it's Google or whether it's Microsoft, you're always being listened to.
But even if they don't listen to us, they don't have to. At the end of the
No.
day, what I'm interested in and what my friends are interested in will probably be similar. So if I'm talking to my friend about let's go on vacation in April to Cyprus, and I'm telling her, wow, that's a great idea, let's go to Cyprus. And she already looked online in Kayak or Google Travel or whatever. And then I start seeing commercials to vacation in Cyprus, I will say, "Oh wow, they listen to me." No, they know that I just had a 2 hour conversation with my friend, and this is what my friend has been clicking on for the last 2 weeks. So it makes sense they'll show me the same things, and that's so. Some would call it social engineering. Some would call it marketing. I don't know.
So I'm
Well,
bad. My child has an NVIDIA box. We have an NVIDIA box for streaming, and I purposely search for bad things so that it shows up in my child's feed when they're at college. They're like, "Dad, what are you doing, Dad? Stop doing that. I know you search for this." Sorry, Joe.
Adam, wait till you see what I've been watching on YouTube from the podcast account.
Oh
But
God.
anyway. No,
Yeah,
but
well,
it's a really interesting question. There's a little different way of looking at it. It's like, okay, you have the stuff out there. We can't prevent the stuff. It's very hard to minimize it. But I'll give you an example too, and maybe I'm too privacy conscious or something. But you're talking about moving from kind of surveillance into really, are you being manipulated at some point? Are you really, there's marketing and there's deliberate manipulation. I mean, I'm going to, when I take a trip, I go overseas very often. People, they love WhatsApp. Everybody outside the US, it's like soccer. They all love, we're the only ones that don't use WhatsApp as much. And I mean, it's been a few times that I've gone, I've downloaded the app and I go and I start, I'm like, okay, I got to do it. There are some people I need to talk to. And you see that big pop up or whatever it is that comes up that basically says they are collecting every
everything.
goddamn thing on the phone and your whole address book and sending it to Facebook, basically. And I'm like,
Yep.
I just can't get comfortable with that because I know that they're dedicated essentially to, I don't want to say using it against you, but not using all that data in your best
Well,
interest necessarily.
you know what? But the question is, do I want to see commercials to things that I'm completely not interested in, or do I actually want them to give me commercials for stuff that will interest me? Will it make me buy more? Maybe, maybe. But at the end of the day, there's also the user's responsibility. It's not Amazon's fault that I scroll around and put things in my cart and buy. If I'm addicted to online shopping, then I'm addicted to online shopping. Did Amazon make me this way? They probably contributed
And what
their
if they didn't?
part. No, but at the end of the day, you can't just blame the big apps, and that's why I'm going back to education and awareness. If people are not being, if people are not aware of those manipulations, they don't even know that they exist. They don't even. One of the things that I always talk about in many talks that I do is about sort of between social engineering and marketing. And I see people like they're absolutely stunned. And for me, that's standard practice when I go online to book a vacation. Whenever you go on booking, I'm always in luck. I'm the luckiest person in the world because there's always exactly one room left where I was looking. And if I change my search for I need 2 rooms, I'm the luckiest person in the world. Seriously, I should start
Playing
filling
lottery.
in the lottery. Yeah, absolutely. Because suddenly they have 2 rooms left because I'm such a lucky person. Or because
Oh
they're
yeah.
trying to use urgency to get me, don't think about it twice because those are the last 2 rooms. And if you wait, they'll be gone. So,
Okay, I'll give you a step further because this I've seen. This is not paranoia. Recently booked a trip, and my wife, she's using a computer, and she figured this out, and she's not a security person at all, believe me. But you use the browser, you're using Chrome, whatever you're searching, Expedia, Booking, whatever you're looking at. You see the flights, and you notice that over time the prices aren't going
of
down.
course.
Maybe they're going up. They're stabilizing. But you go to another browser.
Mhm.
or to another machine, and you look at the same flights, and you're getting a different price.
Different
And
Of
cookies.
I'm like,
course.
yeah, that's it. It's because they think, oh,
Of
it's
course.
someone else. We're trying to cook them in with a lower price. To me, that's manipulative. I don't
It is
subscribe to
manipulative.
that. You know?
But when you talk about it, and you know what? We just talked about it. Hopefully people will listen to this podcast. Hopefully people will talk about this part of the podcast with their friends and they'll know. So for me, when we were looking to book a flight for big group of people, our entire family came over in the summer. So like, I think we're 10 or 11 people were on the same flight. And we were looking on our computer and my father-in-law was looking at his computer and suddenly we see the price going up and he said, no, we have to book it now. We're going to wait for 2 days. Why 2 days? We're going to wait for 2 days. But the price will go up. I told him, look, if the price goes up, I will pay the difference. How's that? And we waited 2 days and the price went back down. And we just used a different computer from a different IP, from like a
Right.
different browser. Everything was different. And then the price went back down. And at the end of the day, when people hear this, for us, it's like standard practice. But a lot of people are not aware of that. Now they're using the same tools that hackers are using: urgency, scarcity.
Yeah. So May, Joe and I have a friend. His name is Doug. And when I used to travel with him before I worked with him with Joe, he used to use his UK browser. Like he would either have somebody book the flights and stuff. It was always cheaper from the UK browser than it was from the US browser. So people do
Oh,
that
I
thing.
always do that.
Yeah.
I always play around. I play around with my VPN. Not when I'm in the UAE, of course, because you can't use your VPN in the UAE. You use your VPN in the UAE, but yeah, I'm using it all the time, and I'll book something for my dad when he comes over. If he'll try and book the same flight from Israel, it would cost him more than if I try to book it from the UAE, and it's the same flight. So
Yeah, interesting.
yeah, you have to play around with it and check which one will be the best one. Now, next time it probably will be different.
Yeah.
So I guess that's an interesting perspective, because we're, I guess we think of ourselves, at least Adam and I would do, as, defenders. We try to stop the bad stuff. It almost seems like you say, in this newer age and going forward, it's like you can't change the game. You got to just play it well or do the best you can with it.
Kobayashi Maru scenario.
Yeah, but we have to adapt because what we see, and it's also a generation thing. Because I don't know, 5 years ago, even today, if you go and interview for a big company and the HR rep will go through your social media account and will see all sorts of personal things, they might perceive you in a very specific way. We can say that we're against biased and we're against profiling and whatever. That's human nature. But I think that human nature does change. And I think that things that were frowned upon 20 years ago will not necessarily be frowned upon 20 years from now. And that's also something, because even a tattoo was something that, people would always cover up their tattoos in a business environment. And today, people walk around very proud of their tattoos. I don't have any tattoos, but so even that's something that has changed. And you know what? I'm not sure that 20 years ago we would have a cocktail during the podcast, during a professional like, I don't think it would have been accepted. Maybe in the US.
See, May, I'm looking at it the other
Not
way.
with the recording on, at least. But
Yeah.
If I want to look like a really good person for a job interview, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm Jewish, but I'll put myself in a church, show pictures make a Facebook account, show me helping, defenseless animals, work in soup kitchens. I mean, you can do socially manipulative things. I'm not saying I
Yeah.
would really do that, but the point I'm making is what people use for bad and researching you could turn around and reverse it and make yourself look like, God's gift. I mean, so
And that's
the
also a
people.
question. Can we trust what we see on social media?
well, no, of course. Oh, look, the only social media I really use very grudgingly, and it's largely for the podcast and for professional stuff, is LinkedIn. And I'll tell you, on LinkedIn, everyone loves their job. Everyone had a fabulous time. Everyone's going to fabulous conferences. It's amazing. It's like Barbie World. It's like
Yeah, it's like Facebook used to be 10 years ago. Today, it's at least on Facebook and even Instagram. It's more about being authentic, being yourself, and sharing the good and the bad. Not for
Speaking of
everyone, of
Barbie's
course.
world, do you know the CEO of Barbie? We're trying to get him on also.
No, can I be the CISO? I'm willing to be the CISO of Barbie. I'm
He
willing to do that job.
he's
See,
connected to Savan and other people. I tried reaching out to him. He
I'll
hasn't
talk to
reached back to
Sivan
me.
about it. I'll talk to Sivan. I want to be the CISO of Barbie. Yeah, and then I
Well,
can
speak
wear
to
cape for
Savan,
work. I'll
the
talk to Sivan
CEO of Barbie of
of the
Mattel,
CEO.
and also we need Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot. Well, I am an Israeli, but I'm not. I don't have superpowers yet.
Oh
Only in
no, but Savan
cybersecurity.
knows Gal Gadot.
Yeah. Well, Israel is a very small place. Like it's a very small pond. It's smaller than Jersey.
Well,
So
I've been to
yeah.
Israel many times. And Tel Aviv is just about the size of my desk.
Yeah. Well, the Israeli cyber community is everyone knows everyone, for good and for bad. So when we're doing a webinar and we suddenly need a big speaker, it's pretty easy for us to call people from the big companies like Palo Alto or Checkpoint or Wiz or Orca. Some of them are personal friends. Some of them are people that we work with or we know. So yeah, so
Speaking of Checkpoint, is he really stepping down?
that's what he says. I mean, he said it years ago as well, so I don't know if it will actually happen, but we'll see.
I
I think
remember
that,
Is
watching
this his
him
third
do.
farewell tour or something? I don't
well,
know.
I think to be honest, I think that I can totally get what he's saying. He wants to focus now on the future generation and the future of cybersecurity and the technological world and not just checkpoint. And I think it makes a lot of sense. At some point, I mean, he did more than his share for the cybersecurity community, and now he wants to help the next generation. I think it's actually admirable.
I always hear rumors that Dorit is the one that's running uh, Checkpoint. I'm sure Dorit will know
Oh,
it.
to be honest, I'm not sure if Dorit will want to be CEO. I don't know.
I heard she's running it now. So
Yeah, well, from a technological point of view, but I don't know, to be honest, if she's that inclined. At the end of the day, it's the same conversation we started with. Should a cybersecurity person be more technical or more business oriented or both? And how can they combine those worlds? You know, I had a very interesting conversation with a good friend of mine, Idona Or. He's a fantastic hacker and he's the CEO of Security Joe's and they're doing incident response. And we had that conversation, I think probably 2 years ago. He said, and we talked about the fact that I hated hacking and I found it absolutely boring. It was like doing the same and very narrow and very focused on details, and that's not me. And I absolutely love that macro vision, looking at the entire organization, doing risk management. And he is completely the opposite. He hates those things and he loves the nitty gritty. And at the end of the day, that's the thing with any profession. I think it has to be. You have to choose the career path that is suitable not just for the lifestyle you want or the paycheck you want, but also what you actually enjoy and what you're actually good at. I mean, you can study anything, but the question, if you're not passionate about it, you'll never excel.
Oh, completely. And we should. One of the things we try to do on the podcast is say, like, not everyone is a hacker in security. That there's such a wide variety of people, and just to let people know, you're talking about penetration testing or ethical hacking or whatever you want to call it. The truth is, it's not glamorous at all, like in the movies. Much of it is very mechanical. It's going through checklists. It's
oh, it sounds
doing the
like
same thing
Swordfish.
over and over again. Yeah. It's not like Swordfish where if you've
Yeah.
seen that, it ain't like that. And
Or Mr.
and you're
Robo.
not
No, you don't
you're
have
not
that
going to have Halle
instant.
Berry
Yeah.
chasing you or anything too. It's
No.
Where do I
No,
sign up
it's
for
not
that?
like that at all.
Oh.
It's like I, Joe and I have had this conversation many times, and Dave also, former of Signia. We've had these conversations where I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. I want to do privilege escalation. I want to compromise machines. I want to do this, and you can't be the one-stop shop for everything. It's impossible. Nobody has that much time. Though I've seen people that are so incredibly talented, and I don't think that's me. I think I'm capable, more than capable, but I just don't have that. And especially if you ever worked for a country where you were trained to do these compromises. You've had incredible training, whether it's the 8200, whether it's the NSA, no matter what country it is. I've never done that, so I've never had that capability or that luxury. But the point I'm making is exactly what you said, May. You got to pick your poison. You got to pick what you want to do, what interests you, what you want to focus on, and focus on it tremendously. Not go from here to there, to here to here to there. It's too much.
Yeah. Well, I think that my personal career took quite a few twists and turns, and it also comes from the fact that when we started 20 plus years ago, there was no clear path. I want to be a CISO in 10 years. That's what I have to do now. No one knew. No one even knew like the different roles. We were all in one cybersecurity people. I did configure the firewall, and 2 hours later, sat down with the ISO auditor because that was the reality. And I'm not I'm not sorry for that. I think that was incredible and it gave me a very well rounded perspective on cybersecurity. But would I recommend people coming into the industry today to do that? No. No, I would tell them try. You can do it in the first 2, 3 years, and then you have to choose a path. You can pivot, but not every 2, 3, 4 years. It doesn't make sense.
But there are so many different levels now. Things have changed with security. It's got much bigger. It's gotten much more specialized. And yes, you kind of have to choose a path, and you can't choose them all. You need to go one way or another. Even if you're staying technical, you can't do everything. There are just too many specializations. But on the other hand, especially today in the in this era of cost cutting, that we're seeing where hiring is tight and companies don't want to spend and they're trying to cut back. There still is a lot of call, especially in the smaller organizations, for the security guy, the guy who does everything. And I've been noticing, in the job postings and stuff and even talking to people, they go, "Oh, I'm the CISO," and like when I think of the CISO is a senior person, is an executive, is a manager who's running all those things. But we have a lot of people who are, say they're CISOs or they get the title or companies are looking for a CISO where, I say they're really looking for a senior engineer who can do most everything and do a few of those other, maybe supervise a couple people and maybe do an audit. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a business need for that.
Yeah, but I'm sure you'll agree with me that the CEO of a company with 50 employees is not going to be in the running to be the CEO of Checkpoint anytime soon. So even if he's as the CEO of a cybersecurity company with 50 employees, he's not going to be in the running for Checkpoint just because it's different skills. And some CISOs, and to be honest, personally, I never enjoyed working for large enterprises. I did it and I learned a lot, but I didn't like it. I always preferred working for SME, SMB companies that you can really influence and you're really a crucial point in the organization. And and again, that's a character trait. It's not good or bad. My husband, on the other hand, he loves working for big enterprises. That's what he's been doing his entire career, and he loves it. So it's very different.
I'm more like
Yeah.
you, May.
No, go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm more like May. I I don't want to work for. I've worked for an enterprise company. I worked for many enterprise companies, but one specifically, and I would never want to do it again.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there too. I've worked at all sizes, and the big ones are too big. And actually, career-wise, you do tend to get too specialized and pigeonholed, and it's hard to break out of it. So it gets
And if you
boring.
like it, it's great.
If you like that, that's fine. It's not for me.
Absolutely.
The ones that are too small, being
Yeah.
the person who does everything, there are people who love it who
Yeah.
thrive on it. But that middle kind of thing I find more interesting, and also because I find it very challenging too, because very often when you're in that mid range, you have the very often, especially depending on the industry, you have the requirements of the big guys
Yes.
without the budget and the team. And to me, that's just professionally challenging and more interesting
Yeah.
to do that way.
I
Unfortunately, it
absolutely love
doesn't pay as well, but it
Yeah,
is
well, it's
challenging.
not as
Yeah.
it's not as high paying and it's not
Yeah.
sometimes as glamorous as you will say I'm the CISO or one of the big companies. But it's a matter of personal taste also,
Yeah.
and personal preferences. So I personally always preferred like the new enterprises, like startups that are just that are just growing from the startup phase, like with 200, 400 employees, and they're just growing to the 1,000, 2,000 mark, and they're growing and they need to get their act together from a startup perspective to an actual mature organization with regulation, with compliance, with everything. So I always found that very, very challenging and fun. And no, I don't want to be a CISO. Don't ask me. A consultant. I can be a consultant.
So for me, when I worked for a very, very large enterprise organization, I wasn't the rock star I thought I was for many reasons. But when I worked for smaller organizations, I tend to be that rock star. And for me, it was a culture shock because sometimes I feel those organizations at that level don't necessarily want you to be that rock star. They want you to deliver, deliver, deliver. However, they want to make sure, I'm trying to be careful what I say. They want you to be somewhat suppressed. They always want to keep it at that level. You can't go further because then I think that encroaches on what they do and they fear for their jobs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think
Was
it
that
depends
careful
on.
enough? Was that careful enough?
Well, you
Yeah.
guys are the Americans one. We're Israelis. We just shoot first, think later.
Oh God.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not what it is. By the way, it's a cultural thing. It is. Israelis will first do, then think, does anyone want to buy my startup? No, it's a great technological idea, but maybe there's no market for
You
it.
know how many
Yes.
people I've
Yeah, I
worked with
tried
that
that.
did
It didn't work
startups?
here, I can tell you.
What, in Israel?
I,
Everyone.
I wish I was born Israeli. Then I would have done a startup. I
Oh,
might
you
just
don't
move.
want to do the startup. That's how we drink even more.
I think I'm moving to Israel to do a startup.
I moved out and started a startup. Yeah, so again, it's a cultural thing. It's fun.
Okay, so we're getting to the end, but before we do that, May, can you give us a little insight into what it's like doing security at a startup? Because in some ways, that is the most challenging. That's when you're the most cost constrained, the most resource constrained,
Greenfield.
and where the board, they're not worried about profitability. They're fighting for survival very often, not for security. So,
Mm.
what are your thoughts on that kind of environment?
Well, I think that's the funnest. Can you say funnest? That's the funnest environment for me personally,
Okay.
because again, it's challenging. So it goes back to the point of being very creative with your resources. Use things not necessarily the way they were intended to be used. Like you have to be very creative. For example, take things that are free off the internet. Even you can use for awareness. You can use free content and use that. You can try and give benefit for the organization, especially in the startup sort of stage, that they're trying to get market involvement. And I won't mention them by name, but there's a specific financial startup in Israel that did a phenomenal, their CISO at the time did a phenomenal job. He said, okay, we're a fintech company. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny and mistrust when it comes to cybersecurity. And he decided to turn that into a marketing advantage. And they started doing live webinars about cybersecurity, and they ran their own podcast, and they gave so much content, so much free content. You could do a security assessment, and they sent like security awareness emails to their customers and to anyone who wanted to and was on their mailing list. And they sort of positioned themselves as the security fintech, though they had nothing to do with security. They were totally a fintech company. So I think that was very creative of their CISO. I love that. And I think that at the end of the day, it's doing more with less. You don't have the resources. So try and make sure that everything you get can be optimized and is optimized. And if you have a specific license, whatever it is, doesn't matter which one, even if it's not the best of breed, try to use everything you can from that tool, because you won't have budgets to buy best of breed 1,000 different tools. You don't have manpower to run like 50, 60, 70 different security tools. So try to
We often
make
have to
the
go
most.
with value. So you have to
Yeah.
start thinking about value, not just best of breed. Or
Absolutely. And who do you have in the team that can manage? What are their skill sets? Make sure that you empower people within your organization. For example, in one startup that I worked in, there was an IT guy, very young, very eager, and he was super enthusiastic and he loved cybersecurity. And I spent the time after hours teaching him cybersecurity and sending him content and sending him trainings that I've seen that he might find interesting. And I gave him a shot to do different things in the security department because I didn't have anyone else. It started from the fact I didn't have anyone to do it, and he was eager. So it was a win-win. And today he works full-time cybersecurity, and I'm very proud of that. So I think that in a startup organization, in the startup state, you have to try and find those talents that will be your heroes, will push you forward, people in the R&D department that you can teach. Try and utilize as many people in the organization, not in a bad way, not like bad manipulation, but teach them, give them benefit, so
Nurture
they'll
them.
help you do, they help you do your job. And if you invest in people, that's what I always find. If you invest in people around you, they will help you do your job much better.
It's the old teach a man to fish type of thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. It does take more effort. I mean, very often it's it can be easy to hire or easier to hire great people when you have a lot of budget or when you have a marquee company that everyone wants to join. But when you don't have that budget to attract people, it's almost like the open source or the free software thing. You have to create the people. You have to train them yourself. You need to find them, pull them from some. We've talked about, pulling people from the help desk or support or sysadmins and stuff. You got to do what you can.
So it's funny. Remember the movie Boiler Room?
I
No.
don't think I saw that.
So
one.
the movie Boiler Room is about trading and people who become brokers. So how many of you are already a broker? Get out. We train brokers. We don't hire brokers. So some organizations want to create the correct person, not hire somebody who's done something already differently.
Yeah, but let's just be clear, Adam. In that particular movie, weren't they training them to be criminals?
Yes, but
Okay.
you missed you missed the point, though. You missed the point, though.
But the one thing, if I have to say, the one training I'm most proud of in my entire career, and I've been doing training for so many years, officially and non-officially. I've been an adjacent professor, and I've been doing ISC2 certification and CISO training and all sorts. And when I was, I don't know, probably about 12, 13 years ago, my PA went on maternity leave and they brought me this student. He was 20 something, 24, 25 years old. He was a student of economics. And to this day, he always reminds me that the first day he sat with me and I was sort of explaining like the basic of cybersecurity, CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability. And he remembers me telling him, I don't know how much I should invest in teaching you because I don't know if you'll actually stay in this industry. And he's one of the best CISOs I had the privilege of working with. He's working for a very large gaming company. He's absolutely incredible. And if he's hearing us, Orent, this is for you. And thank you for challenging me to teach you. And
cheers. Well done, both of
I'm
you.
going to sign up for you. I want you to train me to be a CISO so I can get a CISO job.
Are you sure you want to be a CISO?
I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Me neither. Not a CISO.
I still do, and frankly, it's something I think I got to work on with my shrink. I don't know, but it is in some ways. You know what? We could do a whole show just on that. It has its benefits and its joys, but it's not an easy job in a lot of ways that people probably don't expect. It's not easy at all.
Yeah. But it's fun.
It can be fun.
Yes. It is.
It could also cause you to lose your hair. Hence me.
No, you see, that's fine.
Well, you got out of it, May. So so you've got the long hair.
Yeah.
All right, so we are just about getting to the end here. I think we're heading towards last call. May, your final thoughts, and if you have any plugs, I think you were working on a couple books. You had said,
Oh
right?
yeah, wow. Well, the first book is coming out real soon. Um, the working title is Think Safe Cyber: The Practical Guide for Online Safety. Again, it's a working title, so feel free to pitch in your ideas because I don't like it, but it does convey the point. So it's actually a translation of a book that I wrote a few years ago and published in Israel, and it was very successful. And it's sort of cybersecurity for everyone. It has special stories that a lot of people in the community, in the cybersecurity community, don't know. So I was trying not to bore cybersecurity professionals to death, but it also is very practical and easy reading. That's what people say. It's not just me saying that. So yeah, it's basically for everyone, for your parents, for your spouse, for your kids, for everyone who's concerned with cybersecurity and wants to get a practical guide of how to stay safe online. So
Oh
it's
wow.
yeah. So it started with the TEDx talk and with building the Think Safe Cyber community. And at some point, people told me, "Why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book?" So at some point, I wrote a book. So yeah.
Well,
So hopefully, it will be released by the end of Q2.
oh, great! Because you know what, I will take a bunch of copies for like holiday presents. I got a lot of people who could who could use that, and we'd love
Yeah.
to have you back on to talk about it too.
Oh,
Because that
absolutely.
that
So I
sounds
would
like a
love
great
that.
topic
I'll
for
take
other
an
folks.
autograph book. I'll pay for it.
I will send you a copy and everything. Yeah, and you'll probably get it faster than I do because it's going to be on Amazon. So yeah, so you'll probably get it first. Yeah, so that's very exciting. I'm working on my doctorate, which is going to focus on the business impact
Oh,
of
all right.
cybersecurity incidents because I sort of had enough with us calling wolf and saying the roof is on fire and everything is terrible, and if we have a cybersecurity incident the company will collapse. I don't think that's actually the case, so I'm analyzing that. So again, my professional ego is suffering major blows during this research process, but it's all for good reason.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
I'm going to start
Yes.
my doctorate in September. I want to concentrate on cyber warfare.
Oh, nice. Yes. So we'll talk about that as well.
I can't wait for Joe to call me doctor.
I told you, Adam, you don't have to get a PhD. I'll call you doctor
Anyway, yeah.
anytime you like. If it'll get you to stop talking about getting a PhD.
I'm not getting a
This has been
PhD.
going on for years, the
I'm getting a
PhD
Get a
DSC.
talk with him.
DBA.
I'm getting a
DSC.
DSC.
What's a DSC?
What's that?
I'll bite.
A doctorate in security, cyber.
Where have you found that?
No, I
I
mean
found
it's
you.
a doctorate in science. I'm sorry, cyber.
Oh, okay.
It's Capital Tech. Cap Tech.
Really? Well, I'm doing
Yes.
a DBA, a doctorate in business administration, because what I'm interested in is the business impact of cybersecurity.
So one of our colleagues, or one of the guys that worked for Joe at one point, his name is Eric. He got his master's there, and I applied for the doctorate, and I got in, and then I deferred it, and now I'm going to go in September. So
Amazing. Good luck.
thank you.
Good luck. Well, I think I may go for the same degree Hunter Thompson had, the Doctor of Gonzo. That's the best I'm going to be able to do. Involves a lot of drinking, but anyway,
That's how we do it.
there we are. Okay, well, May, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for
It's
having
been
me.
a lot of fun. We definitely want to see the definitely going to want to see your book when it comes out, and we would love to have real cocktails again if we can have it at an appropriate hour. But thanks for keeping the faith. You're tough. You're tougher than us. We wimped out on this one, so
See,
Yeah.
well, it is 9:30 for you guys, so it's fair enough.
Yep.
that's true. All right. Adam, your thoughts? Final words?
I'm at a loss for words.
You're at a loss for. Dude, we're doing a podcast. You can't be at a loss for words.
Okay.
We got to talk about that.
All right. Give me about 5 minutes. I'll tell you my words. So
Okay, we'll take 5 minutes of dead air and then chop it out. Okay.
no.
All right.
This has been
That's
great.
No, this has been great. May, thanks again. It's been great. Been great having you on.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care, everyone.